So, you've seen all the hype surrounding the City of Heroes official license to the Homecoming server and decided to give the game a try. Only problem is, it's been 20 years since you played last, so you don't remember how anything works, or you've never played before, so you don't know how anything works. Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to my beginner's guide to City of Heroes in 2024. At its core, City of Heroes is a pretty simple game, though it does have little caveats and weird choices that might not be super self-explanatory to a brand new player. And part of that's because this game was released in 2004, before World of Warcraft, so a lot of the choices this game made were before the genre had been refined. And I think in some cases that works to the game's strengths, and in other cases it works towards its detriment. But I'll be covering them all here today, starting with character creation. Once you've made an account, installed the game, and logged in, you can just click create a character and you're off to the races. The first choice you're going to have to make is whether you're playing a hero, a villain, or a Praetorian. I would advise against playing a Praetorian, as it's designed for players who have already played as a hero or villain before. If it is your true first time playing the game, I highly recommend playing as a hero. It's the way the game was designed to be experienced first, and it's going to have a lot denser population than the villain side. The other choice to make on this page is your origin. This is 90% a flavor choice. Where does your hero get their powers? Were they born with it? Was it grafted onto them, or are they using a suit of some kind? Are they magical? That is just entirely your call. This will have no direct effect on your heroes or their capabilities. This will only have a very minor impact on a specific type of equipment. Next up is your playstyle. This is pretty self-explanatory. Do you want to be upfront dishing out damage? Pick melee damage. Do you want to be in the back line shooting guns? Use range damage. Do you want to be up there taking the hits? Play a tank. This isn't going to change your character at all, but it is going to narrow down the archetypes to only show the archetypes that can do what you've selected for your playstyle. So if you select tank, you're only going to be shown brute and tanker. Peacebringer and Warshade show up in pretty much any playstyle because they can fill any role, but those are sort of elite fancy archetypes. I do not recommend them for a first playthrough. Once you've decided on a playstyle and an archetype, you can move right on. We're going to play a Scrapper, which is your classic melee DPS, and go from there. Their primary power set is their main source of damage. It could be swords, it could be claws, it could be elemental melee attacks. Your choice. We'll go with dual blades for this example, just maybe we'll make a sort of roguelike, quick, nimble hero. Every single power set does have its own mechanic, which makes it unique. For example, the dual blades here actually have order of attacks they want to use to gain bonus effects. One combo empowers you, a different combo weakens your opponent. The Scrapper's secondary power set is defensive. Again, this is going to be entirely based on the archetype you picked. We'll play it simple. We'll go with invulnerability with the ability to resist physical damage. Plain and simple. Next up, you customize your character. I'm not going to go into this heavily. You can pick a body type, mess with the sliders, and then you can spend 6 hours in the character creator because, oh my god, this thing is so customizable, it's not even funny. You'll never make the same character twice. You can also customize the visual effects of some power sets. The dual blades don't have a lot that can be changed, but like invulnerability, you can change if you want it to be brighter, darker, or even very little effects at all. Give your character a name, something stupid like Wolf Axeman, and start the game. The terminology for the rest of this video is going to be used assuming you made a hero, but if you made a villain or a Praetorian, don't worry, it'll all still apply to you. The biggest difference is going to be NPCs. The tutorial here will teach you a lot if you play through it, but I'll cover what they teach you in this video anyway. The first step to any encounter is targeting your enemy. You can do this by left-clicking on them or tapping the tab button, and depending on the color of their name, you can get a reading on how strong the enemy is compared to you. A gray enemy means they are way weaker than you and are actually worth no experience points. An enemy with a green name is 2 levels lower than you, blue is 1 level lower, white is equal to your level, yellow is 1 level up, orange 2 levels, red 3 levels, and anything purple is 4 or more levels above you. The exception to this are lieutenants, bosses, and anything beyond bosses. These, even if they are your level, will show a name color of 1 stronger than you for lieutenants, 2 stronger than you for bosses, or even more for enemies stronger than bosses. So a boss of your level will still have an orange name. Once you've targeted an enemy and you're within range, simply click your ability, or they're bound to the number key, and you'll activate it. You'll deal your damage, things will happen, and the ability will go on recharge. Once the bubble has filled back in again, you can use that ability again, rinse and repeat for all of your abilities. Abilities have a few different parameters such as damage, accuracy, recharge time, endurance cost, but I'll go over all of that a little bit later when we talk about enhancements. When moving from place to place at low level, don't forget to make use of your sprint power. This just makes you run faster. It costs a little bit of endurance per second, but not as much as you gain per second, so as long as you don't leave it on in prolonged combats, you're fine. Inspirations are a super unique feature to City of Heroes. They are down here in your inspiration inventory. You only start with 3 slots, but you do get more slots as you grow in level. Inspirations are temporary bonuses to a variety of things. They can instantly heal you, restore your endurance, which is basically your mana from other games. They can boost your attack, defense, resistance, accuracy. They can even revive you if you are knocked out. Inspirations are incredibly helpful and are a really fun part of the game. A big thing to get used to is use them. A lot of people want to hoard them for boss fights or whatever, but trust me, they drop so frequently and so often, there is no reason not to use them if you've got them. Enhancements are City of Heroes' version of loot or gear or equipment or whatever you want to call them. Here in your enhancement inventory, you will store up to 7 pages of enhancements, which will drop from defeating enemies, completing missions, all kinds of things will drop enhancements. Now, the enhancement you get at the beginning of the game is known as a training enhancement. It is the worst kind in the game. It gives a very small damage bonus, but overall, you're not going to see training enhancements very often. More often, you are going to see what are called DOs and SOs. These are dual origin and single origin enhancements. Once again, I'll get into enhancements more later in the video because they do get fairly complex. Right now, just understand that you can equip enhancements of the same origin as you. If you choose natural at the beginning of character creation, you can equip natural enhancements. Yes, I realize I said choose, I'm not cutting it out. So, you've finished the last mission of the tutorial and you have leveled up. You might notice that there are a few instant benefits to leveling up, and you can use these to your advantage. First off, you get a full heal and endurance recovery, meaning if you can level up in the middle of a boss fight, that's a full heal, which can be a game changer. Additionally, you can see on my buff bar, I've gotten one of all of the strongest inspirations in the game. Huge defense buff, huge accuracy buff, massive damage buff for about 30 seconds or a minute, I can't remember. Make use of this time. If you level up in the middle of a mission, gun it. Take on as many groups of enemies as you can, without being stupid, and you'll get a lot done in a short amount of time, which feels great. Additionally, you'll have to level up. Talk to Coyote at the end of the tutorial and head to Atlas Park. This is also where you will spawn if you skipped the tutorial. Now, assuming you have played the tutorial and spawned in at level 2, the first thing you want to do is go right over here and talk to Miss Liberty. This is where you want to go anytime you level up. This is what's known as a trainer. They can be spotted by the green icon on the map with a little green person in a white bubble. Most maps have one, but not all of them to my knowledge. When you go to them, as long as you have this green arrow in the corner after leveling up, you can train to a new level of power. If you have trained to an even level, you are going to get a brand new ability. We'll take Ablating Strike. Ablating Strike, Abba-dabba ding-dong. If we had hit an odd level, you'll get enhancement slots for your powers. By training up to the next level, on an odd level, you will get 2 slots to add to your powers. You can put 2 slots on the same power, or 1 slot on each power to equip more enhancements. If you're just starting out in Atlas Park, there's a few different places you can go to start getting experience. The first, you can do what I just did, which is street sweeping. Run around, kill some mobs. This can get you to level 3 or 4 pretty quickly, though it'll be a little bit faster if you use contacts. Right at level 1, when you spawn into Atlas Park, you can click the Find Contact button, and you'll get a bunch of different options for missions you can do for different contacts. Contacts are quest givers, missions are quests. The 5 origins each have their own unique starting contact. For example, if you are a magic origin, you could start with Azoria, who works with Magi, a cool government section. Alternatively, if you don't want to follow your origin story arc, you can start with Matthew Habashi, whatever, who will give you a very generic, hey, there's thugs, go stop them storyline. just as good of a place to start. Once you finish a contact's missions, they'll usually introduce you to a new contact, and this is how you'll keep moving around the world. Do some missions, get recommended to a new contact, go to that contact, do their missions. And this is how you will find the story arcs of City of Heroes. And these are what a lot of people love the game for. A story arc might consist of multiple contacts and many different missions, all culminating in some satisfying finale, the most recognizable being the Frostfire arc. We actually just did the Frostfire story arc on stream on Wednesday, and it was a blast to do it as a community. We played through all the missions together, took down the final elite boss Frostfire together. It's so much fun, and it's satisfying, and best of all, it nets you a pretty sizable amount of experience for finishing the whole thing. So if you're ever lost and don't know exactly where to go, there is a link in the description of this video which will lead you to a list of all story arcs by level. So if you're level 27 and thinking, I don't know what to do, go to that link, look at the level 25 to 30 content, and pick any of those story arcs. You can see exactly where it starts. Something to keep in mind, though, is that the contact who starts that story arc might not work with you until you get recommended from a previous contact. But that information will be right there on the wiki page, so if you want to start doing Flux's story arc for Frostfire, you do need to work with Detective Police Officer what's-his-name first. I don't remember, he has a mustache. The world of City of Heroes is consisted of 4 different types of zones. Technically 5, but we combine 2 of them. The first is what you see here in Atlas Park. This is a city zone. There are missions, there are occasional bad guys, there's a lot of stuff to do in the city, lots of shops, monorails, hospitals, etc. This is where you will spend a majority of your time, especially at low levels. After that, we have hazard zones or trial zones. They're technically separate, but we clump them together. They are these red areas on the map. The Hollows is a hazard zone, the sewer network is a trial zone. Basically, these are places where there are much bigger groups of enemies much closer together. Basically similar to city areas, but less populated by good guys and much more populated by bad guys. There are also rare co-op zones where heroes and villains can actually work together on missions, or at least in the same place. I've never had the pleasure of doing any of these co-op zones, but apparently the Homecoming server has added and altered a lot more so that there is more options for co-op play between the 2 factions, as opposed to their competitive play in PvP. There are entire PvP zones in this game where heroes and villains both have their own separate story arcs and missions they can do, but if you come across each other, you can beat each other up. It's terrifying. I have no interest, but if you like PvP, that could be a great place to start. And if you're still stuck and looking for a place to start, the chat window here is your best friend. There are so many different types of chat, from global to help to team to supergroup to local. There's always someone talking, there's always people to talk to, and the best part about this City of Heroes community, there will always be someone there to answer your question. This community is amazing. There is so little toxicity, no one's gonna talk down to you for not knowing something, and people are always looking for a chance to help you, which is just mind-blowing compared to every other MMORPG in the world. You'll find people looking for groups, you'll find people just having a casual conversation, there's always something to talk about, and never be afraid to jump in. Eventually, once you have formed a guild known as a supergroup, you can start talking just to your supergroup members, you can private whisper people. There is always someone to talk to in City of Heroes, even if you feel like you're alone. Now, being part of a supergroup is incredibly helpful. It gives you a community of players who you can always see if they're online or not, and with them, you can tackle the game's harder content known as task forces. A task force works incredibly similarly to a story arc, only once you start it, you and your entire team are locked in, and these missions are quite a bit more difficult than your standard solo casual leveling missions. Play through the story arc, finish all the missions, beat the big finale, and get huge rewards. And the cool thing about City of Heroes is there are task forces and trials for all levels, and really, this is a big aspect of City of Heroes as a whole. Your level doesn't matter as much as it does in other games thanks to the Sidekick Exemplar system. If you've got a level 40 character, but your friend is only level 12 and wants help with Frostfire, you can help them, not by going in and being a level 40 one-shotting everything, but because you get exemplared down to their level. Your level 40 is now level 12 again, but as a cool little bonus, you still get access to your powers up to 5 levels higher than them. So even though you are functioning at level 12, you have all of the powers you got through level 17. So you're technically stronger than a character of that level without completely making the content meaningless. Likewise, if you're level 40 and you've got this cool mission you want to show your friend and they're only level 12, if they join your party, they will be upgraded to your level, level 40. However, they will only have their abilities they've learned so far. They won't magically get the rest of their abilities. It's a blast, and it makes it so everybody can do content together almost regardless of level. There are still some level requirements for some pieces of content, especially the endgame ones, but for example, when we did Frostfire on my stream, there were people of all levels in that party, as low as like level 7 and as high as at least the 20s or 30s or higher, all working together and having a great time doing this mission. It's great. And if you want to be part of that community, please come on over to the stream. I do stream City of Heroes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, at least. Depending on the day, we might go later, might go shorter, but I'm streaming almost every morning, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We'd love to have you there. If you're watching this the second it came out, I am streaming at this time. So if you want to come over, hang out, and maybe do some missions, we'd love to have you. The next thing you should know about if you're playing on Homecoming is right over here. It is the pay-to-win vendor, and this is not as scary as it sounds. Basically, this vendor sells everything that would normally have cost money when the servers were live. But because the server is legally not allowed to ask for money from you or charge money for anything, everything now is either free, like the double experience booster if you just want to blitz through levels, or costs in-game money. You know, if you want a fancy little vanity pet, costs 1 million in-game currency. It's honestly not that much, but it's cool. So there's a lot of things you can get for travel. You know, normally you'd have to wait until a higher level to get a special movement power, but if you go ahead and buy, say, the Ninja Run, then you can go over here, you get 1 free movement power from the pay-to-win vendor, and then you have to spend in-game currency for more, but this can let you zip around the game a lot faster than you would have without it. Now, if you're a purist like me, you don't have to use this. I usually wait until I can get my travel power and just rely on sprint. I think it's fast enough, but a nice change they have made to the Homecoming server is that you now get your special travel power at level 4 instead of 14. This is a choice between super speed, flight, super jump, and teleportation as your way to get around. I highly, highly, highly recommend getting one of these 4, otherwise your game will be a lot slower. But yeah, right when you hit character level 4, you can start zipping around the map. Alright, it's finally time. I've talked about it multiple times throughout this video. Let's cover enhancements. I'm going to switch characters for this. So, here we are on my main. This is Peak Male. We use him in all the live streams. He's glorious. If you look at my enhancement screen, this can seem a bit overwhelming. This is at level 20. I've gotten a lot more abilities and put more slots into them. So let's go over this step by step. Like I said before, enhancements upgrade your abilities parameters. If you slot in a damage enhancement, that ability will deal, as listed here, 25.6% more damage, or will have a 25.6% increased accuracy chance. Now, these are special. You can see the number is on top, and these ones have a specific border. Those are called invention enhancements, and I will get to those last. The first thing you should be worrying about is checking out the dual origin and single origin enhancements that are dropping from the enemies you are fighting. Now, like I said, you can only equip enhancements that match your character's origin. My character happens to be mutation, so that this amulet, which is a mutation magic dual origin enhancement, can be equipped to my character. Now, you'll see the number 8, that's the level of the enhancement, is in bright red, and this increases my recharge rate by 0%. That is because single origin and dual origin enhancements can be leveled out of. An enhancement can only be used if it is 3 levels higher than you or at most 3 levels lower than you. Anything more than 3 levels lower than your character level will grant you no benefit, as seen here. Any enhancement with a bright red number is no longer providing you a benefit. Now, the inverse is also true. If you equip an enhancement that is 3 levels higher than you, the bonus is going to be way higher than if you equip one of your level. But as you level up to it and past it, that bonus is going to get weaker and weaker until it is completely gone because you have out-leveled it. So, the general cycle of the game as you're playing is to keep an eye on the enhancements that drop from enemies, equip new higher level ones, replace your low level useless ones over time, and just keep upgrading your enhancements as you play through the game and level up. However, there is another type of enhancement worth talking about, and those are the Invention Origin enhancements. These are not dropped from enemies, but rather they are crafted yourself at universities. The closest university for all new players is going to be in Steel Canyon South, and I wouldn't worry about Invention Origin enhancements until maybe level 15 to maybe 22 even, for reasons I'll get into in a minute. The first being obvious, this is a high level zone, there's no reason to be going through here at level 6. Once you enter the university, right to your left will be, or at least in this university to your left, you will see these workbenches. This is where you can create your Invention Origin enhancements. Now, it's worth saying, Invention Origin enhancements do still follow the same simple rules of enhancements, meaning you cannot use it until you are at least 3 levels lower than the enhancement. So these level 20 enhancements I made, I could not equip until character level 17. But the big benefit of Invention Origin enhancements is that, while at low levels they are weaker than single and dual origin enhancements, you never level out of these. I could reach max level 50, and these level 20 enhancements would still be giving me an accuracy buff and a damage buff. But they also don't get any stronger. It's still worth replacing them at higher levels. You can see the level 20 ones give about 25.6. If we look at the damage workbench inventions that give at level 50, you're looking at instead a 42% increase, which means you stack these on top of each other. Of course, they're going to be way stronger. So you're not just going to make one set of Invention Origins and ride it till max level. Though I do personally recommend making yourself a couple around, again, either level 17 or 22. If you're level 22, make a solid set of level 25 Invention Origin enhancements. Those will carry you through most of the game. You might get some single or dual origin enhancements that are better along the way, and you can slot those in, but until you reach level 50, that group of level 20 or 25 enhancements will carry you a while. Now, I should probably cover, how do you actually make these? Well, it's a multi-step process. You go to these workbenches and you select Workbench. If you want to make a level 25 Invention Origin damage enhancement, you click the drop-down menu for damage, level 25, and you will see everything you need here. You need influence, which is this game's in-game currency, so you gotta spend that to buy the recipe, and each recipe only makes 1. So for every damage invention at level 25 enhancement, you need an inanimate carbon rod, a brass, and 35,500 influence. These recipes can also rarely drop from enemies, but I wouldn't count on it. Those two items there, the inanimate carbon rod and the brass, are known as salvage. Salvage also drops from enemies and mission rewards at a fairly random rate. Those specific enemies will drop specific types of salvage. Luckily, at this low level, things like the inanimate carbon rod and brass are super common, thus there's an easy way to get them if you want a quick early game power spike. By typing in \AH, you will open up the auction house, and if you have ever found a single yellow or orange piece of salvage, like this enriched plutonium, you can sell it for all the money you'll need to make a solid set of enhancements. So we just drag this down here, list it for like 300 influence, and click post. Within seconds, it will be sold, and boom, 350,000 influence made, just like that. With that 350,000 influence, you could make a solid 6 or 7 of these damage inventions, because buying things like the inanimate carbon rod is not that expensive. Someone's buying them out for a lot right now, but they're still only about 1,000 each. So if you bought 5 of those, that would be 5,000. 5 brass would total up to be about, looks like maybe 1,000 or 2,000 if you want to go for that. So for a grand total of about 200, 300,000 influence, you can have a bunch of damage enhancements ready to go. Same works for accuracy, same works for endurance reduction. And now, the last thing I want to talk about is something I learned yesterday. You already know how to play the game at this point. I have told you pretty much everything there is to know about the game. There's all these different parameters for your abilities. You know how to take missions, you know how to do task forces, you know how to talk to people and make your hero and level up. Let's get into the nittiest of gritty. Accuracy versus to hit. Because those are two separate stats. As you can see here, we have accuracy bonuses and we have to hit bonuses. I'm going to put this as simple as possible. It doesn't really tell you this well in the game, but it does list them as separate buffs and debuffs. Basically, if you are fighting a creature equal level to you, you have a 75% chance to hit it. This increases or decreases with enemy level difference. If they're a lower level than you, you have a higher chance to hit. If they're higher level than you, you have a lower chance to hit. Now, let's talk about this using that equal level 75% chance to hit. If you get a to-hit buff that is plus 10% to hit, your 75% accuracy becomes 85% accuracy. To hit is additive. Even if you have a 15% chance to hit, a 10% to hit buff will increase that to 25% chance to hit. This is versus an accuracy buff. If you've got a 75% chance to hit and you get a 10% accuracy buff, that 75 gets 7.5% or 10% of your total accuracy added to it. So 75 plus a 10% accuracy bump becomes 82.5% accuracy. And likewise, a 15% chance to hit with a 10% accuracy buff only becomes a 16.5% chance to hit. Do you follow? This is incredibly overcomplicated, but for the most part, you only need to worry about accuracy buffs. You cannot slot in a to-hit enhancement into an offensive ability. The only thing you can buff is the amount of to-hit an ability buffs, like from a support class. If the support class has an ability, or for example, my blaster here has the aim ability, I could slot in a to-hit buff enhancement and it would give this ability even more. This gives me 50% chance to hit. That is additive to whatever my current chance to hit is. If I slot in this 15% to hit buff enhancement, that 50% becomes around 57.5% to my current to hit chance. Do not worry about this. Just focus on accuracy. To hit is mainly reserved for supports or for some tankers and abilities that can reduce to hit. Reducing to hit is a lot more common than increasing to hit, but I thought I would showcase this anyway to show how deep this game goes. There is stuff I didn't cover here today, obviously, but that's stuff that a beginner does not need to worry about. This last part, a beginner does not need to worry about. If you want to get into the nitty-gritty math of the game, the wiki has all the information you will ever need. But trust me when I say, have fun with this game. Just enjoy it. Make some enhancements, team up with some folks, get some advice, make some friends, and just go beat up bad guys. Play whatever character you want. Don't worry about any kind of meta or trying to be the best, strongest version of your archetype. Just make the hero you want to play. The difference between the most optimal and least optimal barely matters because this game is about teamwork. It's about team composition and just figuring out a way for your team to work. We had a team of almost entirely DPS characters last night. We were getting our butts handed to us, but then we learned, oh, if we just shoot from afar and then back up and let the enemy waste time coming to us, we can kill so many of them that we can handle them when they finally reach us. This game is not about playing the right characters to beat it. It's about figuring out the way to beat it with your characters. And that's what makes it my favorite MMO of all time. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Thank you.